Ash, we'll get into it. And I think today's conversation will be quite relevant. It'll be quite appropriate given the time of the year that we're going into. A lot of business owners going into downtime, as it were, where a lot of thought is given to what they're doing for next year and that sort of thing. So, but just to set a little bit of context, Ash, as I said, is the founder of Business Clubhouse. He's also now an author. He recently published and released Hitting the Wall. There it is. So I'm sure we'll get some snippets out of Hitting the Wall, and also runs a podcast for the Business Clubhouse as well. So Ash's speciality really is talking and getting under the bonnet of business owners, really, first and foremost. So if you find that an appropriate term, Ash. But anyway, let's get into it, Ash. So at this time of year, you work with a lot of business owners. We often talk to a lot of our members and a lot of business owners about routes to success and succeeding and things like that, and how they're going to achieve that. But in terms of getting to the success, what first and foremost gets in the way for a lot of business owners to achieve that?
This is kind of the $1 million question, that one, isn't it? Yeah, we had a meeting last week with a lot of our clients at an event, and we spent probably about 2 hours chewing over I call it kind of barriers to success. So it's a opportune question, I suppose. And I'd identified 5 or 6, 6 key ones, and I'm sure there are loads more. And some of these are going to be very, very obvious. But I think the first one that jumps to mind, that really springs to mind, that everybody talks about, and we talked about it in the room that I was in just now with Rebecca, David, and Eddie, was a real failure to identify priorities. Or in other words, and it sounds really obvious, but actually I think, we talked about the fact that people have been spending years perhaps in business just doing what they do because they're just sort of turning up to their diary is ruling them, if that makes sense. So you're kind of just, networking is a perfect example. I was saying that I was doing 7 networking groups before lockdown, and I stopped going for a month. You and one other were the only ones who got in touch with me to say, how are you? And so now it's really easy for me to prioritize which of the 2 networking groups I'm going to continue going to. But sometimes, we need to take stock and actually stop and think, right, well, what are my priorities? Am I working towards them, or am I just kind of floating through because this is what I've always done?
You say there's sort of 6 barriers to success. Can you share a couple of others? And is that something that you touch on in your book?
Yeah, I mean, the book's called Hitting the Wall, and it's, winning the game of business by breaking through your own barriers. So I think that's where some of it came from. And I think, so a couple of them I can talk about, for instance, is, and it's interesting because I had Rebecca, who runs a VA business, on the call, and there are other VAs are available, as I say, but not understanding what you could be doing versus what you should be delegating. So, and I've spoken about this at your events, really understanding your value as a business owner. And I think a lot of people don't take the time out to actually think, what is my job? And they find themselves doing everything. And because they're doing everything, they don't actually have the time to do the important things. And if you add that to not recognizing what your priorities are, you just end up kind of swimming against the tide all the time and getting overwhelmed. And there are people like Rebecca's team and others around who can take on the £10, £15, £20 an hour jobs. I mean, I've got stuff that I'm paying £40 an hour for, but against my hourly rate and value to the business, that's a small price to pay. And to really understand that's a big one. If I would, a strong message would be for those people who are not, if you go into 2021 with the attitude of what can I stop doing? What can somebody else do for me instead of what can I start doing, or what else should I be doing? You're gonna succeed rather than getting in your own way. And I think with that as well is, the third one is believing that, and I use the word believing quite strongly, believing that reacting is more important than building the vision. So I can't ask for a show of hands because I won't see them, but maybe people could put it in the chat. But how many people start their day with email? Because nobody in this room has ever had an email where somebody has sent them an email saying, "Can I do this for you?" People only ever get emails saying, "Can you do this for me?" It's a demand on your time. So if you start your day with email, you're reacting to everybody else's priorities. rather than starting your day by fulfilling your own priorities. And that's a real barrier to success because it slows everything down. So it really, really gets in the way.
We've spoken before, Ash, and you don't have a to-do list; you have a to-don't list, which is that really opened up my mind. And Anders and I spoke after that one as well, and we both said, look, we're building this list of things to do, but you kind of go, right, what do we not need to do to free up that time to do other things? And that was a really powerful point. It'd also be interesting to hear from attendees, you know, what do they feel they're doing too much time doing? And I'm sure it's a consistent thing across the board with lots of businesses where business owners aren't sort of letting go of those tasks. But when you think in terms of preventing businesses to grow, you know, what are the obvious things that you start to see? And the first thing people think of is cash. You know, I need more money to grow.
Yeah.
But what are the other things that people, you know, that you're observing that prevent businesses from growing?
Okay, so a good one. It's a bit wordy, and I'm going to read it off the screen so I get it right, but I do think it's quite interesting, which is procrastination based on subconscious scripts that subvert your behavior. So there are people that are listening to this going, I have to do everything on myself. Okay, there are people listening to this going, nobody else can do my job as well as me. I'm the only person in my business that can do this. But that's a script telling you that actually, you know, that's a script driving you in a certain direction. And we all have these little scripts. We all have the little voice in our head that we don't actually hear, that's kind of nudging away at us all the time, telling us that we don't have value, that I can't do that, I can't go on stage and speak, all those sorts of little things, and they get in the way, and they start helping you cheat. So you start sabotaging things to ensure that you don't get yourself into that position, the thing that you're afraid of. So that's a big thing, is understanding those scripts. And I think the other one is linked to that, which is allowing fear to masquerade as perfection. So I'll do it when it's ready. It's not quite right yet. Now, nothing's ever going to be perfect. You know, somebody just asked to plug the book. Hit the wall.
You don't need any encouragement, Ash.
But it's a point. I know for a fact, and I'll tell you what, I'll send somebody a free copy if they can find it. I know for a fact there are 4 spelling mistakes in this book. And that's after it being proofread twice. But I still published it, because if I wait until it's ready, it's never going to be ready, is it? And the more I read it, the more I kind of look, oh, I could change that bit, I could change that bit. And actually what I started to do, you know, I could have probably published this 6 or 7 months ago, but nobody's going to read that. That bit's not very interesting. And that's just my fear getting in the way of the 1-star reviews, which I know I'm going to get. At some point, somebody will give me a 1-star review. That's okay, but that's not a reason not to do it, is it?
Yeah. I think one thing that definitely, and I'm probably guilty of this, is holding on to too much. And I've seen, since we've started to outsource things and I've delegated tasks a lot better, things start to move forward a lot more freely, and you start to open up the floodgates almost. I did, and if I was guilty of that, I'm sure there's a lot of other people. But you know, I read something along the lines of, you know, perfectionism really getting in the way of the business growth, and just being happy with delegating and 80% of your quality that you expect, being happy with that level, because it's not all going to be perfect. So I think perfectionism definitely gets in the way of as a barrier as well. Do you see that as?
Completely, all the time. And I think it links in with kind of like my 6th barrier as well, which is a lot of us grew up believing, and especially if you've got a sporting background, like you'll have heard this, okay? You, at some point, your coach, Brad, will have said to you, Brad, go out in that field, and failure is not an option. Okay, you'll have heard those words, failure is not an option. Now, I believe failure is the only option, because you have to go out and fail fast. And we believe that everything we do has to be perfect so that we don't fail. But actually, the quicker you fail, the quicker you try stuff and find out what works and what could be better, the quicker you succeed, because you get better quicker. You know, most people in this room listening to this will have learned to ride a bike. You fall off the bike a lot, don't you? You fail a lot. Everyone here, and I hope I haven't offended anybody when I say this, but everybody here has learned to walk at some point. And if anyone's got young children, They just fall over all the time, but none of them turn around and look at you at 18 months old and go, Dad, you know what? I'm done with this. Pick me up and carry me around for the rest of my life, please. You fall over and you get on with it. And at some point in our lives, we stop believing it's okay to fall over. And I think it's really important. So and I don't mean this the wrong way, but I think Network My Club is a great example of this. You've very openly just gone out and said, we're going to try this. And most of what you've done has worked, and occasionally things haven't worked, but that hasn't stopped you doing it. And that's why you're growing, and that's why you're getting yourself in front of areas that perhaps you hadn't thought you would a year ago, because you're prepared to fail.
Absolutely. A couple of comments that have gone in the chat there. First, Chris Nash was asking about the book, which you've done. Thomas Herod-Taylor's highlighted something I completely missed, how you're giving away a free copy only after people find the spelling mistakes. So really are a great salesman, Ash. Maret agrees with everything you say. Peter Wood, if you've not failed, you've not pushed yourself full to explore your ability. So, and Mike Monk says something very similar. So, yeah, it seems that it's very, very common, and I'm sure a lot of business owners out there going, well, actually, yeah, that's happening in my world. And Ash, you've got a background in sport, and there's a lot of similarities between sportsmen and business people, and that's something I've got a real interest in diving into. But the question for you is, what separates one from the rest? Is what's between the ears? Do you see the same in business in terms of what a lot of athletes can be the same, whether it's tactically, skill-wise, things like that. But what separates that 1%? What are these people doing in sport and also, in business?
I think, and I'm very prepared to be happy to fail on this one, be corrected, but I think it was Gary Player who said the difference between the number one golfer in the world and the rest is the 6 inches between your ears. And I think it was Gary Player. I could be wrong. If anybody can, correct me, I'm very happy to be done. But I think that's the difference. You look at the top tennis players in the world, you look at the top footballers in the world, you look at the top cricketers in the world. It's all about what's up here. It's all about your level of confidence. It's all about whether you're able to put away that fear of failure and go for it and be prepared to fail. Look at Jason Roy. How many single-figure innings has he had? But it doesn't stop him going out and going again and again and again. Every time Johnny Bairstow trips up, he loves it, doesn't he? He kind of uses
these are cricket references.
For example. The more I practice, the luckier I get. And I think, for me, I've worked with players who are average, and I've worked with some elite players as well. And every single time, for me, the difference is, there's minuscule differences in physicality, technical ability, tactical ability. Some of them just have it's not even desire, it's almost like a preparedness to fail, to get out there, be hit, fall over, get tackled, whatever it is, but pick themselves up and go again and go again and go again and go again. And it's just being resilient, I think. And if you're prepared to do that, you get to the top.
Yeah, I think the mindset is huge, and to make it relevant to this year alone, we saw that in the very early stages of the pandemic. We had a portion of our members that just went, right, let's see what online is all about, let's fully embrace it. And they are the ones that were the early adopters, and they have been throughout, and now they're starting to see the fruits of that proactiveness and the willingness to accept change. And that's what I've unfortunately seen a lot from business owners, even business owners that I didn't expect it from, a real unwillingness to not accept what is going on right now. And that has, from a mindset perspective, I think that's really held a lot of businesses back this year. Have you seen that? Do you agree?
I was speaking to it was perfect. I was speaking to a client last night. So it's two complete opposite tales very quickly, but speaking to a client last night, and she was saying, I'm running these Facebook ads, they're not quite working. The business isn't that important, but she's got an opportunity to take her business online. And when we dug down, actually what she's doing, she's getting about 25 call opportunities a week. So 25 people have said, here's my phone number, call me because I want to have a chat. She's not calling them. And she's coming up with all sorts of excuses not to. And when we dug down, it's actually because she hasn't come to terms with the fact that for the next 6 to 9 months, her business has to stay online. She wants it to be real. She wants it to be face to face. So because she hasn't come to terms with it, she's sabotaging its potential success. And then the flip side of that is a client I was chatting to this morning whose business has grown tenfold in the last 7 months because they've just gone, I can't do this. What can I do? Embrace it, take a bravery pill and go. And they're absolutely and literally gone from about a $4,000 a month rolling revenue stream to about, I think last month he did 49.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to see it next year. It's that our recent member survey came back that, you know, I think it was about 90% of people that came back talking about networking for next year will be a combination of online and face-to-face events. And for those that just haven't accepted online and haven't embraced it, they're going to not be able to tap into that opportunity that's out there. You know, the opportunity of online today, we've got members across Sussex, Hampshire, Surrey, London, Berkshire, and you know, that is not really possible face to face, you know, particularly the frequency of events that we've been doing. And there are a lot of people that are going to miss out on that opportunity, or if they do decide to take it up down the line, you know, there's going to be a lot of their competitors that have embraced it. So well done to everyone that's that's here, basically. And lastly, Ash, we'll finish it up with one last question, and it might be $1 million question that I've got here, but procrastination is a big thing from a business owner perspective, or in life in general. You know, you're not going to get much done if you procrastinate. But why do people procrastinate? What do you typically say to that?
Well, the obvious answer is laziness, but it's not. I think fundamentally most people aren't lazy. I think, I don't know, I believe people procrastinate because they're afraid. But they're not necessarily afraid of failure. They're often afraid of success. I had that conversation this morning about money with one of my clients who has been for the last 3 or 4 years sabotaging the growth of her business. And purely because her scripts, if you like, her subconscious scripts are telling her that money is the root of all evil. That if she does get really wealthy, that all her friends and family are going to look at her and go, you're not a very nice person because you're rich. And so she's actually sabotaging success because she's afraid of being successful and wealthy and being looked at like that. Once she recognized that and taken that away, she's gone, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And she can move forward from it. So I think there's for every person who's afraid of failing, I think there's somebody who's afraid of succeeding. And that's what procrastination is about. It's getting away from those two things.
Absolutely, and it seems a lot of people are agreeing in the chat, which is great. And Ash, we've just about come to the end, and it's been a really refreshing and poignant conversation, given the time of the year and the fact that everyone's sort of going into a new year and it's that clean slate. So, if this has resonated to sort of what you're going through right now as a business owner, I hope it helps. But hopefully, you've taken something from it. And right on cue, Thomas. One last plug of the book, Ash. We'll send people the link to it. And Ash, I'm sure we'll do a competition for us or a special discount for members.
Why not?
But we'll go through it. And Ash, it's been a pleasure to speak to you as always. But if anyone's got any questions for Ash, he'll be back in the room until the very end. But Ash, thanks very much, and have a lovely Christmas.
And you, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers, pal.
Thanks very much.